The sun was low over the alien settlement, its light breaking through the thick clouds like golden fire. The market was busy, filled with voices, strange smells, and colors that mixed like paint on wet stone. Humans were rare in this place. Most were workers, traders, or forgotten wanderers. Among them was a young boy named Daniel, no older than 15. He kept his head low, his clothes torn and dusty, his shoes barely holding together as he walked. Daniel did not belong here. He was human in a place where humans were weak. The alien crowd often looked at him as if he was dirt under their feet. Some laughed when he passed, some whispered, and some simply ignored him. But there were others who enjoyed cruelty. And today, they had found their target. 3 alien youths stood near the corner of the market. Their skin shimmered like stone, eyes burning bright with silver glow. They were taller than Daniel, stronger too. Their voices carried through the air as they mocked him. "Look at the human boy. He thinks he can walk among us like he matters," one sneered. The second laughed. "Maybe he is lost. Maybe he is too stupid to know this is not his place." Daniel tried to walk faster, but his heart thumped hard in his chest. He told himself to ignore them, keep moving, not look back. But the aliens followed, their laughter cutting through the noise of the crowd. People glanced, but no one stepped in. No one ever stepped in. One of the bullies shoved Daniel from behind. His body stumbled forward, his knees scraping the stone ground. A sharp pain cut through his leg. He bit his lip, refusing to cry out. The laughter behind him grew louder. Weak human, can't even stand on his own. Daniel pushed himself up, dusting dirt from his hands. His eyes burned with humiliation. He wanted to run. But before he could, the second alien swung his hand and struck Daniel across the face. The sound cracked in the air. The boy fell back, landing hard against the ground. The market grew quiet for a moment. All eyes turned toward the scene. Some shook their heads, some smirked, others whispered, but still no one moved to help. Daniel's cheeks stung, and warm liquid filled his mouth. He touched his lips and saw blood, red and shining against his skin. The aliens laughed. "See how easily he bleeds, he is nothing, just flesh that breaks." But then something strange happened. The drop of blood that fell from Daniel's hand did not vanish into the stone. Instead, it spread, glowing faintly. Like a spark hidden in the dark, the crowd gasped. A shimmer of light ran across the ground where his blood touched. Thin red lines spread like veins, crawling outward, twisting into patterns that no one had seen in generations. The bullies stepped back, confusion breaking through their cruel smiles. "What is that?" one whispered. His silver eyes widened. That should not happen. Daniel stared at the ground in shock. His chest rose and fell fast. He felt something heavy in the air, like the world itself was holding its breath. His blood was alive, it pulsed on the stone, glowing brighter. A low hum filled the air, strange and deep. The crowd backed away, murmurs rising like a wave. "It is the mark, the old stories, the forbidden curse," some whispered. Elders pushed forward, their faces pale. They had seen drawings, they had heard tales, but no one had ever believed. Until now. Daniel tried to wipe his hand against his shirt, desperate to stop the glow. But the more blood touched the ground, the stronger the light became. The stone cracked under him, thin lines spreading outward. A vibration shook the market, cups rattled, stalls creaked, and creatures in cages cried out. The bullies who had struck him no longer laughed. Their faces turned pale as they stepped back. "This is not good," one said. "We must stop it." But none dared move closer. The energy that rose from the boy's blood felt alive, like a beast waking from a long sleep. Daniel's vision blurred. His head spun as the hum grew louder. He did not understand what was happening. He only knew that something inside him had been broken open, a door that could not be closed. The air burned with heat, and the ground beneath him pulsed with every beat of his heart. The market was no longer filled with laughter. It was filled with fear, aliens whispered, pointing at the boy who lay on the cracked stone, a human no longer seen as weak, but as dangerous. His blood was not just blood, it was a signal, a trigger, and whatever it called was coming. Daniel lifted his head slowly, His lips trembled, his eyes met those of his bullies, and for the first time, it was not him who looked afraid. The market was still trembling when Daniel tried to stand. His legs felt weak, his palms shaking as if the earth itself was flowing through his veins. Around him, the crowd had already broken into two kinds of people: those who wanted to run far away, and those who could not look away from the glowing lines spreading across the stone. The bullies who had struck him were no longer laughing. Their silver eyes darted from the boy to the red veins glowing on the ground. Their voices were lower now, filled with unease. "This is not possible. His blood should not do this," one whispered. Another stepped back, fear rising in his tone. "The stories are real. The humans carry the mark." Daniel heard their words but could not understand. He did not know about marks or legends. He only knew the ground was alive under his feet. The glow pulsed like a heartbeat, every throb pushing against his chest. He wanted it to stop. But no matter how hard he pressed his wounded lip, more blood dripped and the cracks spread. The merchants who once ignored him were now pulling their stalls away. Alien mothers dragged their children by the hand, whispering sharp prayers under their breath. Soldiers from the patrol finally entered, their armor gleaming with blue light. They raised their weapons, but even they hesitated to step closer. The hum in the air was not just sound. It was pressure, heavy and suffocating. Daniel pressed his back against the wall. His breath came short. He did not want to fight. He only wanted the world to stop staring. Yet the moment his eyes closed, he felt something new inside. A voice that was not his. Faint but steady. "Awaken, child. Your blood calls us." His eyes snapped open, but no one was near. The words had been inside his head. The soldiers formed a circle. Their commander raised a hand. "Contain him before it spreads further," he ordered. The bullies nodded quickly, eager to escape blame. "He started it. He is dangerous. He will bring ruin," they cried. Their voices fed the fear in the crowd. Daniel's heart pounded. He tried to explain. "I did nothing, I was only—" But the glow beneath him surged like fire. His voice was drowned by the cracking stone. A shockwave rushed outward, knocking baskets and carts onto their sides. Everyone stumbled back, fear twisting into panic. The boy looked at his hands. Thin red lines glowed faintly under his skin. He rubbed them hard, but they remained, pulsing with the same rhythm as the ground. His veins felt hot, his heart too fast. He wanted to scream, but the sound froze in his throat. The commander hesitated. His armor trembled under the invisible pressure. He lowered his weapon slightly, whispering to another soldier, "The elders must see this. They will know what it means." His words only added weight to the rumors already spreading. The elders, the old stories, the forbidden curse. Daniel's knees buckled. He fell again, his palm slamming against the ground. Another drop of blood hit the stone. The red glow raced outward like lightning cracks. The crowd gasped. Even the bullies stumbled back in terror now. No one dared approach. The boy who was mocked minutes ago now looked like a living key to something none could control. Inside Daniel's chest, the voice came again, clearer than before. "They fear you because they know the truth. Your blood is not weakness. It is a bond. It is power they cannot understand." He shook his head wildly, pressing his ears as if to block it. But the voice came from within. Not from outside. The crowd began to shout, "Take him away, destroy him before it grows." Others cried, "No, do not touch him. If he dies, the curse will spread." Confusion twisted into chaos. Soldiers tried to keep order, but even they were shaking. Daniel dragged himself to his feet. His eyes burned, not from anger, but from fear. He looked at the bullies who had struck him, their proud faces now pale, their laughter gone. He whispered to himself, "Why me? Why now?" But the ground answered with another pulse, louder, heavier. The market that once echoed with trade and laughter now stood frozen. Every eye was locked on the boy, the human who had been struck for fun, yet whose blood had awakened something far beyond anyone's control. And in the silence that followed, the earth itself groaned, as if something beneath the surface was shifting. The night came quickly, but the memory of the market still burned in every eye. The ground where Daniel had bled was sealed with heavy chains and guards. Yet even under the thick iron plates, the glow refused to die, faint red lines still pulsing. Through the cracks, people whispered as they passed, pulling children close, eyes darting nervously toward the human boy's small shelter at the edge of the settlement. Daniel sat inside, knees pulled to his chest, his face pale, his hands trembling. He had tried to wash the glow from his skin, scrubbing until his arms burned, but the faint red line still flickered beneath his veins like fire trapped in glass. He closed his eyes and whispered to himself, "I did nothing. I wanted nothing. Why won't it stop?" Outside, the whispers grew. Neighbors spoke in low tones. "The curse has awakened. He carries it in his blood." Others muttered, "If the boy remains, the settlement will fall. We must send him away." Fear twisted their words, feeding on itself like fire in dry grass. The bullies who had struck him earlier tried to hide their guilt. They told soldiers, "He attacked us first. We only defended ourselves." Their lies spread quickly, painting Daniel as dangerous as if he had chosen to bring the glow. Soon even those who pitied him began to fear him, for fear is heavier than truth. The elders were summoned to the great hall, their robes dragging along the stone floor as they entered, their faces carved with worry. They had seen drawings of the blood mark in ancient texts. They had spoken of it only as myth. Now it was real, and it was alive in a human child. One elder spoke softly. "The legends warned us human blood once carried the seed of the guardian. It was bound to the weapon that sleeps under our world." Another elder shook his head. "If the weapon wakes, none of us can stop it not. Even the strongest among us," the soldiers asked. "What must we do with the boy?" The hall grew silent. No one wished to speak the words, but fear forced them out. He must be contained, watched, perhaps even destroyed. Yet another elder raised a trembling hand. "If we kill him, the power may burst free without control. If we cage him, it may grow until it breaks the cage." Back in his shelter, Daniel felt the weight of eyes watching him through the cracks of the wall. He heard footsteps, whispers, curses, and prayers. The settlement no longer saw him as a boy, but as a shadow of disaster. His stomach twisted with hunger, yet no one dared bring him food. His throat ached with thirst, yet the well was guarded to keep him away. That night, when the stars were hidden by clouds, Daniel lay awake. The hum in his veins would not let him sleep. He turned his hand and watched the faint glow flicker beneath his skin. He whispered, "Please stop. I don't want this." But the voice came again, stronger than before. "It is not for you to choose, it has chosen you." He covered his ears, pressing hard, but the voice still echoed inside. Outside, the bullies gathered again. Their laughter was gone, replaced by fear hidden in anger. "If we let him live, we will all die," one hissed. "We must end it before it spreads further." They carried stones and blades, creeping toward Daniel's shelter. But when they drew near, the ground trembled beneath them. A low rumble shook the earth. The chains on the sealed market square clattered like bones. The red light seeped through the cracks, brighter now, as if answering their intent. The bullies froze, dropping their weapons. The air pressed heavy on their chests, crushing their courage. They fled into the night, whispering of curses, too afraid to act. The settlement did not sleep. Some prayed, some sharpened blades, others sat in silence, watching the boy's shadow against the thin walls of his shelter. Fear turned every whisper into truth, every rumor into law. By dawn, Daniel's name was no longer spoken as the human boy, but as the marked one. When the sun rose, the elders gathered at his door. Soldiers formed a line, weapons glowing. Daniel stood weakly, his eyes wide, his body tired, but still alive. He wanted to ask for mercy, to beg for kindness, but the words died in his throat when he saw their faces. The elder in front spoke, his voice heavy. "You are no longer a child in our eyes, you are the bearer of the blood mark, and what grows in you is beyond our control." Daniel's heart sank. He whispered to himself, "I never wanted this." But deep within, the hum in his blood answered, stronger than ever, as if laughing at his denial. and far beneath the earth the ground shifted once more, a sound like chains snapping in the dark. The settlement awoke to a sky heavy with clouds. The air was colder, sharper, as if even nature itself feared what had been stirred. Daniel sat outside his shelter, his back against the wall, his body weak, his eyes dark from a night without sleep. The whispers had not stopped. They floated around him like smoke. Every word sharper than a blade. Soldiers stood nearby, their weapons glowing faintly. They did not speak to him. They did not look at him as a boy, only as a threat. Daniel hugged his knees, wishing he could vanish. Yet deep inside his chest the hum continued, steady and loud, refusing to be silenced. The elders met again in the hall, their voices low but urgent. The mark grows stronger. We must decide, one said. Another slammed his hand on the table. There is no time left, already the ground trembles. Already the people fear. If we wait, the weapon beneath will wake. A third voice answered, softer but firm. It may already be too late. That night Daniel tried to sleep, but the voice in his head returned, clearer. Do not fear. You are chosen. The chains of the earth are breaking because of you. He covered his ears, his whole body shaking. No, I don't want this, he whispered. His heart raced until it felt it might break. Then the dream came. He stood in a place of endless stone, cracks glowing red beneath his feet. Shadows moved across the walls, tall and ancient. Voices echoed all around. Guardian, guardian, you have awakened us. He tried to run, but the ground itself pulled him back. Red light rose like fire around his body, wrapping him in chains of flame. He screamed, but the voices only grew louder. Awaken, child, awaken. Daniel gasped awake, sweat dripping from his face. His hands shook, and when he looked down, faint red symbols glowed on his arms, lines crawling like veins of fire across his skin. He stumbled out of his shelter into the night, his breath heavy, his skin burning with light. The guards saw him and raised their weapons. Stay back, one shouted. But the ground trembled before Daniel could even speak. A crack split the earth behind him, glowing red. The hum grew into a roar, and a surge of energy burst upward like lightning. The soldiers staggered, some dropping their weapons. The people of the settlement rushed from their homes, their eyes widened in terror as they saw the boy glowing, the earth splitting open beneath his feet. The curse is awake, they cried. Mothers pulled their children close. Merchants fled. Even the bullies from before stood frozen, their mouths open in horror. Daniel fell to his knees, clutching his head. The voice inside was no longer faint. It thundered in every part of him. You cannot run. You cannot hide. The blood has bound you, and the world will answer, he screamed, pressing his hands into the ground. His palms burned as more cracks spread, red light blazing outward like rivers of fire. The elders arrived, their robes dragging through the dust, their faces pale, their eyes locked on the boy. It has begun, one whispered. Another said, the guardian stirs, and the weapon with him. Their voices shook, but none stepped forward. None dared to stop what was happening. The bullies who once struck him now shook with fear. We started this, one whispered. We should have never touched him. But regret was useless. The force they had awakened was beyond them all. The cracks deepened, the chains that sealed. The market square rattled violently, snapping one by one. The ground shook like thunder. Buildings swayed, torches fell, and screams filled the air. Daniel lifted his head. His eyes glowed faintly red. His body trembling with power he did not want. He whispered to himself, please stop. Please stop. But the voice answered, it cannot stop. Not until the awakening is complete. The earth groaned, and from the sealed square dust rose like smoke. A massive shadow began to form, rising slowly from beneath the ground. Its size was impossible to measure, its shape blurred by light and dust. The people gasped, terror filling every soul. Daniel stared at it, his heart pounding. He had wanted nothing more than to be left alone. Yet now he was the center of a storm, older than memory. His blood had opened the door, and something far greater had stepped through. The boy fell forward, his hands pressed against the cracked earth, his breath ragged, his body shaking. He felt both fear and something deeper, a connection he could not explain. The shadow grew taller, its roar shaking the very sky. The settlement, that once laughed at a human boy, now cowered in fear of him. And as the shadow rose higher, the truth became clear. The awakening had only just begun. The shadow above the market rose higher, its outline lost in red dust and light. Daniel lay on the ground, gasping for breath. His skin burned with glowing lines, his eyes wide with terror. The voice inside him was no longer faint. It thundered, like a drum. "You are bound to us, and we are bound to you." The settlement was chaos. People screamed and ran. Soldiers shouted orders, but their voices cracked with fear. Some tried to aim their weapons at Daniel, but the heat from the cracks forced them back. Others dropped their blades and fled, whispering prayers to gods long forgotten. Daniel pressed his palms to his ears, his voice shaking. "Stop. I don't want this." The power inside did not listen. Instead, the cracks widened, and a pulse of energy rippled outward, throwing stones and carts into the air. The bullies who had once struck him were now crawling backward, their eyes full of horror. The commander of the soldiers pointed at Daniel. "Take him down, before the whole city falls." But no one moved. The men stared at the boy, glowing with fire under his skin, a force they had no weapon strong enough to break. Daniel staggered to his feet. His legs trembled, his body weak but alive with strange power. The bullies caught his eye, and for the first time he saw fear in their faces. He remembered their laughter, the pain of their blows, the shame of the crowd watching. For a heartbeat, the thought of revenge burned hot in his chest. The voice whispered, "They hurt you. They mocked you. They are nothing. Strike them down, and the world will fear you." Daniel shook his head, clutching his hair. "No, I don't want to hurt anyone." But the glow in his arms flared brighter, his body answering anger with fire. The bullies screamed, stumbling over each other as they ran. The hunters had become the hunted, their mocking voices now broken into cries of terror. The crowd that once ignored Daniel's pain now scattered from him like prey before a predator. Every step he took spread the glow further. The cracks chased his feet lightning-like. Soldiers fired bolts of blue energy. But each shot dissolved against the field of red light that formed around him. Daniel flinched, but the shield was not his choice. It came from the power inside. He stumbled into the street, his breath sharp and shallow. The settlement twisted. Into panic, families rushed from their homes, children crying, traders abandoning goods, all because of him, the boy who was supposed to be weak. The commander cursed. "We cannot let him escape the walls. If he reaches the plains, the power will spread for miles." Soldiers formed a line, weapons drawn. Their fear was plain, but duty forced them forward. Daniel looked at them with wide eyes. "Please, I don't want this. I don't want to fight." His voice cracked. But the soldiers heard only the hum of power, only the roar of the cracks breaking through stone. To them, he was no boy. He was a living disaster. They charged, shouting to hide their fear. Daniel lifted his arms by instinct. A wave of red energy burst from him, throwing the soldiers back like leaves in a storm. Their armor clattered as they hit the ground, groaning in pain. Gasps rose from the crowd. The whispers grew louder. "He cannot be stopped. He carries the curse. He is death-walking." Daniel's heart sank deeper. His eyes burned with tears. "Why me? Why my blood?" he whispered. The bullies hid behind a wall, watching him with trembling hands. "We made him bleed," one said. "We woke this thing," another spat in fear. "Then we must tell the elders. They will blame us if they know." But none of them dared step forward. Daniel stumbled away, his body heavy, his mind screaming. He wanted to run far, far from the settlement, but every step cracked the ground. Every tear that fell glowed before vanishing into the stone. The hunters had become the hunted, and Daniel no longer knew if he was fleeing or being driven. Above, the shadow still loomed, slow but rising. Its roar echoed like thunder, a reminder that the awakening was not finished. The elders watched from a distance, fear twisting their wisdom into silence. They had thought the boy could be controlled, But now they saw the truth. The boy was no longer in control of himself. Daniel collapsed near the edge of the market, his chest rising and falling, his hands glowing faint. The voice whispered one final time that night, softer but more dangerous. You cannot escape. They will chase you. They will fear you, and, in the end, you will learn what you truly are. Daniel's tears fell onto the cracked earth, glowing before they vanished. Around him, the settlement cowered, afraid to approach, afraid to breathe too close. The boy who was once beaten for fun was no longer prey. He was something else, something no one could chain. And deep below the earth, the rumble grew louder, as if answering his sorrow with rage. The settlement did not sleep that night. The cracks in the earth still glowed faint red. The hum still lingered in the air like a storm waiting to break. People huddled inside their homes, whispering to each other. Every sound carried fear. Every shadow looked dangerous. And at the center of it all was Daniel, the human boy who had never asked for any of this. The elders gathered in the great hall once more, their faces pale, their voices heavy with dread. One elder spoke. It cannot be denied. The blood mark has awakened. We can no longer call it myth. Another nodded, his hands trembling. The weapon beneath our world stirs because of him. The guardian's blood flows in his veins, and the legends were true. The soldiers stood near the doors, their armor cracked from the earlier blast. None wished to face the boy again, but their commander kept his voice firm. We cannot let him walk free. If this power grows beyond the walls, we will lose everything. The elders whispered among themselves. Some demanded his death. Others warned it would only unleash the force fully. The debate turned in circles, fear choking reason. Meanwhile, Daniel sat alone at the far edge of the settlement, his body weak, his eyes burning with exhaustion. The red marks still glowed faintly across his arms. He rubbed them until his skin hurt, but the glow refused to fade. He whispered to himself, I don't want this, I never wanted this. But the voice returned, steady and calm. You were chosen long before you were born. Your blood carries the truth of the guardians, and no chain can hide it. Daniel shook his head, pressing his hands to his ears. No, I am just a boy. I am nothing. The voice echoed deeper. You are more than they fear. You are the key to the weapon and the last of your kind who can awaken it. Daniel's breath caught. His heart pounded. The words felt like fire inside him. Could it be true? Was he connected to something greater? Or was this just madness born from pain? He wanted to believe it was all a nightmare, but the glowing cracks in the earth said otherwise. The elders finally came to him, guarded by soldiers who kept their distance. The oldest among them stepped forward, his voice heavy with sorrow. Daniel, you must listen. Long ago, humans were not weak. They were guardians, chosen to bind the weapon of the earth, a weapon that could destroy worlds if left. Untamed, Daniel's eyes widened. He shook his head. That is not me. I am no guardian. I am just a boy who was struck for fun. But the elder raised his hand, pointing at the glowing marks on his skin. It is you. Your blood proves it. The mark has not appeared in 1,000 years, and yet it burns in you. You are the carrier of the guardian seed, the chain that binds the weapon. The soldiers behind him murmured in fear. Some stepped back, their armor clinking. If he is a guardian, then he is also a curse, one whispered. Another said, if he dies, will the weapon break free? No answer came. Daniel fell to his knees. His voice cracked. Why me? Why was I born like this? His tears glowed faint red as they struck the ground. The elder's face softened. Because fate does not ask permission, you are what you are and none of us can change it. The boy felt the weight of the world pressing against him. His chest ached, his hands trembled. He wanted to scream, but his voice broke. The voice inside him whispered again, quieter now, almost kind. You are not alone. We are with you. We have always been with you. But the people watching only saw danger. Their fear turned their faces cold. To them, Daniel was no longer a child, but a weapon wrapped in human skin. That night, the settlement decided he would not be killed, not yet, but he would not be free either. They would keep him under watch, a prisoner of his own blood, a boy chained by fear and prophecy. Daniel sat in silence, his hands glowing faint, his heart torn between fear and sorrow. He was no longer just a boy. He was something else. Something tied to legends and shadows, and deep below the earth, the weapon stirred again, answering his blood with a growl that shook the stone. The truth had been spoken, and nothing would ever be the same again. The dawn was dark, clouds heavy over the settlement. The air felt thick, carrying the weight of something about to break. Daniel sat inside the circle of guards, his arms bound though the glowing marks still burned beneath his skin. The people kept their distance, watching him like a fire they dared not touch. The elders stood near the edge of the crowd, their voices low and fearful. It grows stronger. Every hour his blood hums louder. The weapon beneath answers him. One whispered. Another shook his head. We cannot hold him. The chains will not last. If the power breaks free uncontrolled, the settlement will be nothing but ash. Daniel lifted his head, his eyes red from sleepless nights, his voice weak. Please, I don't want this. I never wanted this. But no one stepped forward with comfort. The crowd only whispered, Curse, guardian, disaster. The ground rumbled. Beneath his feet, a tremor that silenced every voice. Dust fell from the rooftops, cracks opened wider through the market square. From below came a roar, not of beast nor storm, but of something ancient, something chained for centuries. The weapon was waking. The commander shouted to the soldiers, Prepare yourselves. If it rises, we strike him down, no matter the cost. The soldiers raised their weapons, though their hands shook. Their eyes betrayed their fear. Daniel felt it before he saw it. A surge of heat rushing through his body, his veins glowing bright red, his chest burning with fire. He gasped and fell to his knees. His blood dripped onto the stone, and the ground split apart. From the cracks burst light and smoke. The shadow that had risen before now clawed its way higher. Massive limbs of energy and stone pushing upward. Its roar shook the sky. The people screamed, running in every direction. The settlement fell. Into chaos, Daniel clutched his chest, his voice breaking. Please stop, I don't want this. But the voice inside him thundered back. You are bound, you are the key, you cannot run from what you are. His tears glowed as they struck the earth, feeding the cracks with more power. The soldiers fired, blasts of blue energy cutting through the smoke, but each shot bent away, swallowed by the field of red light that poured from Daniel's body. The commander cursed. Nothing touches him, we cannot break through. The bullies who had started it all cowered behind a wall, their voices shaking. This is our fault. We struck him. We woke this nightmare. But their regret came too. Plate, the boy they once mocked, was no longer a victim. He was the storm tearing their world apart. Daniel rose to his feet, his body trembling, his eyes glowed faintly, his skin marked with fire. He shouted into the air, I am not your weapon, I am not your curse. But the roar of the earth answered, drowning his words. The weapon below surged upward, its massive form now breaking, free of the ground. The elders fell to their knees, their voices shaking. The guardian has returned, and with him the end of us. Some prayed, some wept, none dared step closer. Daniel felt the last of his strength slipping. His arms shook, his body heavy. He could no longer fight the power. His blood poured its fire into the earth, feeding the awakening. He whispered to himself, I just wanted to be left alone. His words lost in the storm of light. The shadow rose fully from the ground, a towering figure of energy and stone. Its eyes burned red. Its roar shattered the air. It bowed its head toward Daniel, not as master to servant, but as soldier to commander. The truth was clear. The boy was not cursed. He was chosen. The people stared in silence, their fear turning to awe. The soldiers lowered their weapons, their commander speechless. The elders whispered, The guardian walks again. Daniel stood weak, his tears glowing. He did not want to be a weapon, he did not want to lead. Yet the force had bound itself to him, and now the world would bend to his blood. The boy who was struck for fun had become something unstoppable. His blood had awakened a legend, and no one could control what came next. And as the weapon roared, into the morning sky, the world beyond the settlement heard it, echoing across valleys and mountains, a signal that the guardian had risen again, carried in the blood of a human child,